Hi, welcome to Always in Stitches, Kimberbell's Merry and Bright event. And today we're going to be doing the tree up here. It is called the Machine Embroider by Number, very similar to Paint by Number. And this is called Trimming the Tree. So following my directions, I have taken my two back pieces and I have folded them in half and pressed them. These will be the back of what you could use as a hanger, a small pillow, or even a mug rug. So you fold both those pieces, they'll overlap in the back, so those are ready to go. I've hooped up my stabilizer, which is a tearaway stabilizer. So now what we're going to start with is our placement line for our batting. So that's going to be step one on your machine, and this is the medium tree. Make sure you select the correct pattern that we're going to do. And we're just going to stitch out the placement line for the batting. Okay, we're going to stop and trim off that extra thread. You want to trim your beginning threads when they're done so that you don't get them all tangled up on the back of your project. All right, so we have our placement line. We're going to lay our batting completely over that line. You want to smooth it out, double check to make sure that it's even, that it's not really long on one side and really short on another. So it'll just kind of fill the inside of the hoop. And then step two on your machine, it's going to stitch out the template for the project. So here we go. And this might be the right size. Just kind of make sure your batting stays in place while this stitches out. So we're going to see the outline of the whole tree on here and how we're going to place our fabrics. All right, so having our placement lines out so we know which way we're going, we are going to take, there's these really small pieces in here. Don't lose this, that's your tree trunk. And then you'll have two white rectangles. These are tone-on-tone prints, so on one side you can see the pattern. On the other side you can still see it, but it's a fainter print. So you want to make sure you have the brighter print. That's going to be the right side. That's kind of fool you on some of these. So we are going to place this right side up over this first rectangle area. You want to be sure to cover that whole stitching area that we had. Double check, make sure that everything's covered. Adjust if you need to. Okay, I think we're ready to go. And this is going to be step 3 on your machine. Okay, you're going to trim your fabric close to that stitching line. And I got mine pretty close there, so it's not going to take a whole lot of stitching or trimming. Don't cut your stitches, just trim close to them. Sometimes we get all excited and we might clip a stitch or two and that just won't work. Okay, now we're going to take our tree trunk, our brown fabric, and I'm going to put mine stripes up. I suppose you could go stripes sideways, but I'm going to use mine stripes up. So you're going to place this one face down, and you're going to line it up right along the stitch line that just stitched. So we'll go right up to it. And this is step 4 on your machine. Okay, so we've got that one in. And we're going to flip it over and just kind of give it a good finger press and then get our iron. We're going to press that down so we have a good crisp edge there. All right, and then our next step, we're going to stitch down another placement line. This will be step 5. Okay, you're going to again trim that edge close to your stitches, but please don't cut them. Okay, we'll go back into, and then we're going to take our other white triangle and we're going to line it up along that stitching line on your trunk. This is step 6 in your machine. Okay, then you're going to take it out, flip it over, give it a good finger press. You see we've got a stray thread there, so we'll take a minute and we'll trim that up. Okay, so we have our tree trunk and the bottom section all done. Now we are ready to start up here with our tree. So as we put our hoop back in the machine, it's going to stitch a placement line. Got everything together here. This is going to be step 7 on your machine. Okay, we're going to trim close to that stitching line again. And trim any stray threads that we happen to get. If you're in doubt, you can always trim a little bit and then go back and trim some more. If you got some ragged edges like I have there. Okay, so you're going to put your hoop back in. Now we're going to be working on the parts of the tree, and there's 3 green fabrics. We're going to start with the green curlicue. We're going to go put it right side down, and we're going to line it up centered here. Line it up there with your stitch line. You're going to set your presser foot. This is step 8 on your machine. Okay, we're going to do a flip and press. So you're going to take that fabric, just kind of finger press it down. Take your iron. Get that all pressed in so you got a good edge right there. And then it's going to stitch the piece 5 placement. This is step 9 on your machine. Okay, we're going to trim. Make sure you get all these little threads trimmed off. Okay, again, trim close to that stitching line, but not into your stitches. You'll get tired of hearing me say that, but it's important. You do not want to trim your stitches. So the next piece is our polka dot. It's a green with the white polka dot, and you're going to line it up on the seam. I'm going to kind of center it there, so you can see where it's going to go. So this will be step 10 on your machine. This is going to tack it down. Okay, we're going to do another flip and press. Look how that tree's coming out. Looks kind of like a funky little tree, but what tree is perfect? Okay, so we have that. We're going to sew next, or stitch out the next stitching line. We did our flip and press. This is going to be step 14 in your book. It's going to stitch a placement line. Step 11 on your machine. Okay, we're going to trim close to that stitch line. You can always cut more off, but it's kind of hard to glue back on. All right, then our last green piece that we have is the lattice. You're going to line that up with your stitch line right there. And this is step 12. Okay, we're going to do a flip and press. Okay, now our next step is going to sew another placement line. This will be step 15 in your book. This is a step 13 on your machine. Oops, press our foot down. This is the exciting part. We're getting ready to see what our tree looks like. So we're going to trim along that stitch line. Got some layers to trim through, so make sure you get those flipped up on the back. We gotta do just a wee bit extra trimming here. When you get into all those layers, it doesn't like to cut as closely. So just trim those off. Okay, and then we're going to take, it's another white on white print with our snowflakes. We're going to put this right side down along that trim line that we just did. And make sure you get it centered. This will be step 14 on your machine. Okay, once we have that in there, we're going to do a flip and press. And then we're going to do the trim line on the other side of our tree. This would be step 15 on your machine. as you trimmed on the other side, you're going to trim this side. I'm going to start off with some thick layers, so just take your time going through those. Ooh, we're looking like we got a tree. All right, so while we're at it, we're going to take the other white on white piece. Make sure you can tell which side is the right side. You can see the very distinct pattern on the right side. The back side is a little muted, so you want to make sure that side is up. Put this along your stitch line. We're going to put the hoop back in our machine. This is step 16 on your machine. Okay, we're going to do another flip and press. Look, there's our tree. This part goes really fast. We're getting ready to do our borders. This is going to be a fun, quick project that you'll be able to make lots of for gifts, for yourself. Okay, so step 17 in your book is going to stitch the placement line for the border around the bottom. This is going to be step 17 on your machine. Okay, we're going to trim close to that line again. Again, don't cut your stitches. It's kind of my mantra for the project here. Okay, make sure you get all your pieces off. Trim up your extra threads that you might have. Don't want those showing up in your project. Okay, so our border pieces are this round, red and white houndstooth print. You have several pieces of it. So you're going to place it right side down. And instead of going this way, you're going to cover your tree up. And just try and get that centered on there very well. This is step 18 on your machine. We're going to do a flip and press, and you'll see why we put it up that way. So when we flip it down, we have our bottom border. It's going to be important that you pay attention to which way you set your border piece. All right, we're just flying right through this project. You're going to re-hoop. Then you're going to stitch the next border placement line. This is step 19 on your machine. This is for the top border. Okay, and like you did the bottom border, you're going to take another border strip. It's going to be right side down. You're going to cover your tree. Place it along that line. Put your hoop back in. And this will be step 20 on your machine. We're going to stitch down this border. we're going to do another flip and press. And see, we have a top border. If we'd done it the other way, that wouldn't have quite worked. So press down that border, and then you're going to put it back on your machine. Okay, on your borders, once you have them stitched down, you're going to go ahead and trim close to those edges along that stitch line. Purpose of doing all this trimming is to reduce the bulk so that when you're manipulating it or working with it, that you're going to be able to do that easily. You don't want to have a bulky seam showing through on your project. Okay, so we got that one. Go back and do this one. If you're following your directions, you should have done this before you pressed it. But
Hear that, Deborah?
I know, Deborah, you're probably just rolling your eyes at us at home going, read your directions. We miss you, Deborah. Okay, so we got that down, we got everything pressed, we're ready to move on. I just get excited. Okay, now we are going to stitch our placement line for our side border. So this is going to be step 21 on your machine. Okay, we've stitched that out. And now we're going to trim this extra fabric off. Again, we're reducing the bulk, and you're kind of getting the idea of the size of everything. You have some multiple layers to cut through, so just make sure you get through all of them. Okay, so we have our placement line, and now, as we did with the other border pieces, we're going to lay it right side down, and it's going to be on, you're going to cover the tree up, and you're just going to center it over your piece. And this is step 22. This is going to stitch down this side border. Okay, and you're going to flip and press. Now, I just glanced at the directions again, and it did not tell me to trim that part. So, okay, so we're going to pop that back in our machine. We've got that side done. We're going to go over and stitch the next placement line. This is step 23 on your machine.
I just love that houndstooth border.
Isn't that pretty?
Yeah.
Makes everything in there pop. Okay, I've got a lot of fabric over here, so I'm going to just take a minute here. I'm going to trim off the extra. I know your directions at this point don't tell you to do that, so apparently I have missed that somewhere, but that's okay. As long as you get all the steps in and do it somewhat in the right order. Some things...
I feel like the machine should have a Fitbit.
It needs something. It should talk to me. No, it'd be yelling at me. That wouldn't be a good idea. Okay, so we're going to take our last border piece and pop it in here. It probably would not work. It would say, no, Nancy, read your directions.
Well,
And
I'm
it
sure
would,
Genomi's not far away from doing a Siri inside a machine.
well, and it would probably be in Deborah's voice. This is Nancy, read your directions. So we're going to tack down this border. This will be step 24 on your machine. All right, then we're going to do another flip and press.
Nancy,
Yes.
please flip and press.
Why, yes, I will do that. Thank you for the assistance. That's probably what I need. I mean, you program in which project you're doing, so it should be able to do that. Maybe we'll suggest that to Genomi and maybe get some royalties off of that.
Yeah, money.
Isn't that pretty?
I love that border.
But we're not done yet.
Oh.
All right, we're going to do a tack down line. And if you've noticed, I kind of, even though some of this is stitched down, I kind of guide the fabric. I'm not pushing or pulling. What I'm doing is keeping it flat so that like this edge wouldn't catch up like that. So that's the method to my madness on that. And I'm not sewing my fingers this time. Okay, so this is step 25 on your machine.
Well, I just came up with a new analogy.
What's that?
Sewing down Border Town.
There we go. All right, so the next step, I'm going to go up and clip my threads, or my thread. Now, you'll notice on the sample that there are quilting lines. You can either stay with the white thread as is in the sample. I think I'm going to stay with white thread. If you want a different color thread, red or green or something else, this is when you would change to that color. So this will be step 26, and it's going to quilt in this entire area. So here we go. This is a crosshatch quilting pattern that it's going to do all over the surface of the hanger.
It looks like our audience is multiplying.
It has. Oh yeah. We have our friends, the Kimberbears here today. We have one over there on the fabric. Oh, there's two over there. And two right here. These are a free pattern from Kimberbell. And the idea behind the Kimberbear is that if you make one for yourself, you make one for charity. And here at Always in Stitches, we support charitable organizations, and these bears will go in comfort boxes from the Sailor Grace Ministries for families who have lost a child through a miscarriage or a stillbirth. It just gives those moms and the families something to hold on to when they can't take that baby home with them. So it's very worthwhile, and if you make the Kimberbears, drop one off here in the shop. We will get them to the ministry, and they will send them out in the boxes to the areas that they're needed in. Plus, they're kind of cute anyway. And the different minky you do it in provides a different look to the bear. The pink one, he's got a longer pile on the minky. The brown ones is a shorter one. They're both cute, but it gives you a totally different look. So if you like a shaggy one, you could use the shaggy minky or whatever. They're cute. Okay, we're almost done with our quilting. Okay, Now, if you'll notice on the sample that we have here, we have 2 ribbon loops. And those ribbon loops you can put on if you're going to use this as a hanging piece, which we have it hanging on our wrought iron frame here, which these are available here in the shop. We have them this size, and I believe we have a large one. So now is the time, if you want to do the hanging loops on it, you'll want to get your ribbon out. It's going to be 2 inches, 2 pieces of 2-inch ribbon. And if you don't want to hang it, if you're going to use it as like a mug rug or just a small pillow, you won't put those loops in. All right, so as we were talking about the ribbon, if you choose to do a hanger with it, the ribbon is not included in your event kit, so you'll have to grab some ribbon. Our next step, step 27, we are going to sew the placement lines for this ribbon. They're going to be small little sections, but hopefully you'll be able to see where they go. So this is step 27. Did you see what that did right there? It picked up my fabric and took it with it. And that's why I like to couldn't get my fingers in there quick enough.
Good thing it happened outside the line of scrimmage.
Exactly. Okay. Easily fixed. All right, so then, now that we've got everything in place, you can see the 2 placement lines right here. They're up above your border. So you're going to take your ribbon and you're going to fold it in half. And then where that line is, right there, you're going to place that raw edge kind of centered in that area. You're going to take your paper tape and you're going to tape it down. I made it big enough to go over the border fabric so that it's not going to pick it up like it did on this side. Then you're going to place your second one, find that spot. Kind of hard to keep that ribbon together.
When I did my leaf, I had a hard time with the ribbon.
Yeah, if you want to, you can press that. I'll just finger press mine. That might keep it together. Up, a little better. So let's get it in place and then maneuver. Okay, got it where you want it. And you're going to tape completely over it. Make sure your tape is down really good. I think that ribbon's cute. And then you're going to stitch the ribbon tack down lines. So that's going to be step 28. Almost threaded here. There we go. Okay, now that we have those done, you're going to take your tape off. It's going to come off in a couple pieces. Oh, that wasn't bad. That is very sticky tape. It likes to stick to you and anything else it comes in contact with. but for this purpose, that's what we need. All right, so we have our loops down. Okay, now we're getting ready to do the back. And this will be our two pieces that we folded in half. And what they want you to do is to place the backing pieces on top of the project. So if you were here for the peppermint twist, we did everything on the back of the hoop for that. But this time, this is going to go right on the top. And you're going to overlap at about 1 inch. You want to make sure we're covering everything up. So lay that piece out. And again, your folded edges are going to be at the center. So we'll go up about 1 inch, right about there. Got that there. Then we're going to take our good old handy dandy paper tape. And you're going to tape all the way across this top folded edge. That's going to keep it down so it doesn't shift while you're stitching. And I went a little bit onto the hoop just so it gives it something tight to hold on to. All right, now we're going to stitch the final outline stitch. Did you like that word, final? Okay, now here, this is where I'm going to try to keep, my fabric smoothed out so we don't have any puckers or bubbles or anything. This is step 29 on your machine. So drop our presser foot, and here we go. Okay, it's going to go around a second time to make sure it's gotten everything stitched down tightly. When I go to turn it, I've got some corners, and I'm going to use what's called a bodkin. I don't know if you could see it here, but this has a loop on the end that if you have something that you're going to run ribbon or something through, you can loop it through. But this end has got a round ball on the end that's going to enable you to push out those corners. It's not sharp, so it's not going to go through your stitches. So I believe we have these here in the shop. These are a handy tool to have. So we'll get to see this one in action.
So I don't have to use my seam ripper?
Please do not use your seam ripper. Oh dear. Okay, so all of our stitching is done. We're going to take off our paper tape. And as all good paper tape, it takes everything with it. Okay, then we're going to go over to the cutting mat, and we're going to trim right along here. We're going to leave 1/4 inch all the way around. So remove this from your hoop. Are you going to go with me, Peter?
Yep.
All right. Get all our wires and cords so we don't strangle each other. Okay, so we're over here at our cutting mat, and this looks like my cutting mat at home. It's got all kinds of things all over it, but that's how we work. Okay, so you want to line up on your ruler about 1/4 inch along that stitching line that you have right there. It's kind of hard to see through here. We're going to take our rotary cutter. Hopefully this one has a good sharp blade in it. Oh, it's not the Tula, I can tell you that right now.
It's kind of like we have to saw through it.
Oh my goodness, I think this one needs a new blade.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so that is a good indication that you need to check your rotary cutter blades to make sure they're good and sharp, so you don't have to sit there and saw away at it. We do have replacement blades here in the shop, so that's something good to have on hand. We also showed you the Tula rotary cutter. Oh, she was pretty, and she just cut like butter. It was amazing. Be a great Christmas gift. You could put that on your Christmas list, share it with your family and friends, and say, oh my gosh, this would help me sew so much better. No, I don't know about sewing better, but it sure would help cutting. So we're going to trim off all this excess. You do have some spots where there's a lot of fabric that you need to make sure you get through all of those. All right, so that is all you have to do. Now, see your corners here? You want to trim your corners. Make sure you do not get into your stitching. You just want to reduce the bulk in those corners so that when you turn it, you'll have a good, clean corner. All right. So we're going to go back over. Your little loops will help in kind of pulling things up. Now that looks kind of bad right there, so we're going to take our bodkin in through the back. We're going to go along that line and just push out that corner. There's no sharp edge, so it's not going to poke through like your seam ripper would, Peter.
I've ruined a couple shirt collars doing
Yeah,
that.
please don't do that. Buy a bodkin. They're not that expensive. We also have what's called a purple fang, and that's truly the name of it. And it does the same thing. So you're going to push out all four corners. Make sure they're all nice and neat. One more to go. And with that rounded end, you're able to kind of glide along and push through. There we go. And then what you want to do is take it back over to your iron and press that down. And there you have a cute hanger for your holiday decorating.
Here's the hanger.
Oh yeah, there's the hanger. Keep going. There you go. Stop in and purchase one of these. Thread it through your loops. There's always one that doesn't want to cooperate. It's not pressed, but there you go. How cute is that? Lots of places in your house, I'm sure that it would go. So we also have other patterns from Kimberbell. There's a CD that you can do one of these for every season, for different occasions. So if you like doing this, stop in and purchase that CD, and you can just change it out every month, every season, every time you just have the whim to change it out. So we hope you enjoyed this, and we've got 2 more projects to go.